Hello, everybody. Happy almost Chag Shavuot. It's very exciting. If you made it through Sfirat HaOmer, the cheesecake is coming. I'm very, very much looking forward to that. All right, so this quick shiur is sponsored by Karen and Michael Hershkowitz in memory of Howard Hershkowitz. So thank you to them. And we're going to jump in and get started. So most of the Jewish holidays have a Jewish value attached to it. For Shavuot, it's the idea of Gemilut, Chasadim, and Chesed. Though often translated, we can move to the next slide. Though often translated, thank you, Leah, as acts of loving kindness, the more accurate etymology of Gemilut Chasadim is really to pay back through Chesed. Now, when thinking about Gemilut Chasadim, I thought of 5 different concepts that allow for Gemilut Chasadim to occur. So those five concepts, next slide. Sorry, my screen isn't sharing, so we have a teamwork effort making this run. Okay, thank you. The 5 different concepts that allow for Gemilut Chasadim to really occur are the following. There's cooperation, social skills, dynamics, critical thinking, collective identity, and global vision. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through these 5 concepts, seeing how they connect to Gemilut Chasadim, and then in turn, really try to understand how these are all portrayed in Megillat and Megillat. The first one is cooperation. Through rabbinic discussions, there's a distinction that's really drawn between the concepts of tzedakah, charity, and Gemilut Chasadim. The Talmud highlights the distinction in the source Masechet Sukkah in front of you. We're going to read that together. It says, Tanu Rabbanan b'shlosha dvarim gdola miGemilut Chasadim yoter min tzedakah, that acts of kindness are superior to charity. And it goes on in explaining why. Tzedakah b'mamono, Gemilut Chasadim ben begufo, ben b'mamono. Tzedakah la'aniyim, Gemilut Chasadim ben la'aniyim, ben la'ashirim. That one of the main differences is tzedakah always involves monetary contributions, whereas Gemilut Chasadim is begufo. It can be about money, but it often also involves action. Tzedakah is focused on the poor, but Gemilut Chasadim is an action done on behalf of anybody, not just the poor. Cooperation is learned when one understands how to work together to reach an end goal. And cooperation, as well as Gemilut Chasadim, stresses doing your part in the best way you can, while really allowing for an approach that motivates other people to do the same. The reason that I think Gemilut Chasadim seems to outrank this idea of tzedakah in this source is because it involves more than just oneself. The second concept of social skills and dynamics, we're going to look at the Rambam in Mishnah Torah. So, thank you, perfect. The Rambam in Mishnah Torah, interestingly enough, in his Hilchot Avelut, the laws of mourning, posits the commandment of fulfilling acts of Gemilut Chasadim are rabbinic, but they're also implied in the biblical verse of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. So if you look at the bolded section of the source, it says, Elu hen Gemilut Chasadim. He had listed a bunch of things that were considered Gemilut Chasadim, comforting mourners, escorting the dead, celebrating a bride and groom. And he says, Ve'elu hen Gemilut Chasadim shebegufo she'ein lahem shiur. Afal pi shekol mitzvot elu midivreim harei hen bichal v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. The skills that are really developed for sympathy and empathy, those are the things that foster healthy dynamics in a relationship. The acts of Gemilut Chasadim assist, I believe, into the development of those skills. And sometimes the act of Gemilut Chasadim forces this level of discomfort, perhaps, requiring one to put the needs of others as a priority. For example, as the Rambam suggests, comforting a mourner. Gemilut Chasadim can really be about forcing ourselves to be put in those uncomfortable situations, allowing others a degree of comfort. Our third concept is about critical thinking and global vision. I put these two together and I hope you'll be able to see why. Gemilut Chasadim challenges us on a daily basis to think critically about one's role in society, right? And it compels people to ask questions such as, how can I build a world that I'm proud to live in? What can I do to influence the world around me? How can I provide help and support to somebody else? Really begufo, as the Rambam posited earlier. The concept of the Gemilut Chasadim forces one to actively consider why certain decisions are beneficial, outweighing things, measuring kind of the process of how to act in a world that betters everyone else. And as its necessary complement, I think, to critical thinking, global vision seamlessly ties in all the facets of this idea, helping really people understand and recognize the importance of being those active partners while also showing compassion, being intentional with the actions, and being thoughtful. So if you look at this source from Pirkei Avot, very famous, Shimon HaTzadik haya mishreitzei knesset hagdola, hu haya omer, al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed, that the world stands upon three things. The foundation of the world is this is the basis, al Torah, al avodah, al Gemilut Chasadim. That the global vision, this global vision specified in Pirkei Avot, is one that really champions Gemilut Chasadim, but it balances the parallel values of godliness, of Torah, of interpersonal relationships. Honestly, without all three, I think the lives that we lead are probably compromised. The fifth and final concept that I think allows us to act in ways of Gemilut Chasadim is collective identity. Gemilut Chasadim is not only a value that's connected to Shavuot, but it serves as a narrative tool in Judaism's collective identity, and I think that it can be considered the embodiment of what it means to be a Jew. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he's quoted here, we'll get to that in a moment, beautifully describes, though, the distinction between tzedakah and chesed, similar to what we saw earlier in Masachet Tzedakah. And in turn, he explains the role of Gemilut Chasadim in a Jewish life. He states the following in one of his texts. It's called The 10 Paths to God, and he states the following: tzedakah is a gift of money or its equivalent, but sometimes it's not what we most need. We can suffer emotional as well as physical poverty. We can be depressed, lonely, close to despair. We may need company or comfort, encouragement or support. And these two are human needs, no less real for being untranslatable into the language of politics or economics. That is what chesed is all about. Emotional support, loving kindness, love is compassion. It is tzedakah's other side. Tzedakah is done with material goods. Chesed with psychological ones, time and care. Tzedakah is practical support. Chesed is emotional support. Tzedakah is a gift of resources. Chesed, a gift of the person. Even those who lack the means to give tzedakah can still give chesed. Tzedakah rights wrongs. Chesed humanizes fate. He continues in the next section explaining how it is through our acts of Gemilut Chasadim that we can build a world where we Jews can really be proud to live in. And he states, the heart of the Judaic vision is the dream of a society based on chesed, society with a human face, not one dominated by the competition for wealth or power. Chesed is the mark of a people joined by a covenant. Covenant creates society as extended family. It means seeing strangers as if they were our long-lost brothers or sisters. A community based on chesed is a place of grace where everyone feels honored and everyone is at home. Therefore, Gemilut Chasadim is fundamentally about constructing relationships between one another and recognizing what joins us together in a common thread. So before we move on and make that connection to Megillat root, I want everyone to think about moments that they really felt either impacted by someone else's act of Gemilut Chasadim or a time that they were able to impart moments of chesed or Gemilut Chasadim to other people. Because really, those moments, I think, you'll be able to trace back to these 5 concepts of social skills and dynamics, collective identity, a global vision, and cooperation. Because part of what Gemilut Chasadim really is it's one of the most selfless acts that I think people can be a part of. Leah, next slide. Next slide, sorry. Awesome. We are introduced to Ruth as a daughter-in-law, a widow, a Moabite. She suffers really her own tragedy in Megillat Ruth, the death of her husband. And in this patriarchal world that she's living in, she is left alone to deal with the trauma. Her experience, it's paralleled by that of her sister-in-law, Orpah, and Naomi, her mother-in-law, who is herself a widow. Naomi urges both Ruth and Orpah to, if you look at this first pasuk, says, Lecha shovna isha levet ima, that return to your mother, your parents' household. Naomi's insisting that this is the appropriate and most sustainable solution given their situation. But what's most interesting about this is their reactions to this advice. Orpah looks inward. She says, Vatashak Orpah lechamota, shva yivamtech al ama ve'el Eloheha. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law farewell. She's returned to her people and her gods. She takes the advice and goes with it. Ruth, on the other hand, which is why she's such a fascinating character, searches outward. She seeks to find how she can be a source of support for Naomi. Ruth insists upon staying with Naomi, Ruth davka ba, that she clung to her. Ruth displays a sense of deep understanding, these social skills and dynamics, right? Even though Naomi is initially hesitant, she learns to cooperate with Ruth. Vatera ki mit'ametzet hi lalachet ita batachdal ledaber eleha. When Naomi saw how determined Ruth was to go with her, she ceased to argue with her. We're finally able to see the two women as equals, journeying together and strengthening one another throughout their shared experience. Next slide. A traditionalist view of the Megillah would state that the reason we read Megillat Ruth on Shavuot is since Ruth accepted the ways of Judaism, we too accept the Torah and celebrate that aura of acceptance. Now, on a deeper level, these same psukim illustrate that Ruth is thinking critically about her situation. She's choosing to embrace a life with Naomi. Ruth admires the world that Naomi comes from and takes opportunities to become a part of it. I have to give a shout out to one of my colleagues for assisting me with seeing that parallel. So Daniela Adler, I know she was here before, but it's amazing when you're looking at Megillat Ruth that you've read every single year on Shavuot, maybe just picked it up one day, just as a nice story, and you realize that there's so much more and there's a totally different perspective. And Ruth she's thinking critically about her situation. And the story picks up a newly formed collective identity from this moment that the two women share. So if you look at these psukim, Vatomer Ruth, al tifki'i bi la'azvech, lashuv me'achirach, ki el asher telchi elech, uva asher talini alin emech, ami, ve'elohaich Elohai. She says, I'm not turning my back on you. Wherever you go, I will follow. Right? Gilmore Girls got it right here, that no matter what happens, they are bonded because they share something. They share this bond that can never be broken. There's this collective identity. And Ruth is only able to get there because of that moment where she stopped and thought about, how can I be of service to someone else? Instead of being selfish, let me be selfless. She continues in these psukim and says, Ba'asher tamuti amut v'sham akaver ko yaseh Hashem li v'ko yosif ki amavet yafrid beini u'beinecha. That through and through and through, no matter what happens, we are going to be together, right? From this moment till the day we both die, there's nothing that can break our identity and who we are. And the action that I'm offering you, Ruth says to Naomi, that is one that I'm willing to kind of throw my whole entire self into. Next slide. One of the most commonly used words, right, the light word in Megillat Ruth is chesed, which is obviously where a lot of people believe that the value of Gemilut Chasadim connects itself to Shavuot. This in itself truly is telling us that we see the characters in Megillat Ruth actively contribute, though, to this global vision of exemplifying the ideal community. So if you look through, these are just a few examples where the word chesed appears. It appears in Parak Aleph, in Parak Ben, in Parak Gimel. It appears again later at the end of the Sefer. And we can see how the underlying foundation of the Megillah points to the sustaining message of Judaism, of Gemilut Chasadim. Next slide. There's a very famous midrash in the Ruth Rabbah that states the following, and it's possible that I should have started with this source. But the Ruth Rabbah shares this discussion about why the Megillah is indeed placed in our canon. Rabbi Zera explains that Megillat Ruth is foremost about Gemilut Chasadim. It says, Amar Rabbi Zera, Megillah zo ein ba lo tuma v'lo ta'ara v'lo isur v'lo heter, lama nichteva. Right? It has nothing to do with being tahor. It has no halacha in it. It's not necessarily a guide like Sefer Vayikra would be, right? Lama nichteva. And the answer he gives is lamdech kama sachar tov ligumlei chasadim, that there's greatness to the reward for acts of loving kindness. The very essence of the placement of this sefer can inspire us to be more precise in everything that we do. Thinking about the time period that we're in right now, after Sfirat HaOmer, a day before Shavuot, during this pandemic, specifically my experience doing virtual education, it's really a push for me, I think, to be more intentional in our actions. And I think that we could be using this opportunity as one that can extend beyond the screens. As you know, the famous Mr. Rogers quote, go out and find the people who are helping, that we really can. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for all of us to urge ourselves and each other to find ways to contribute to the world around us. And with that, I'm going to wish all of you a Chag Sameach. I'm happy to field any questions, comments, and I hope that you have a better understanding or a different perspective on Megillat Ruth this year. So thanks.
Thanks, Tamar. We still have some time with Tamar if anyone has any questions or anybody want to chat about anything about Megillat Ruth that we just talked about.
Thank you.
I'm a Senders.
Everybody's trying to duck out early. My goodness.
No, Leah, I was actually thinking about this.
Yes, tell me.
As I was prepping, I remember you happened to be on the senior Shabbaton, and a lot of what the seniors and I discussed on Shabbaton was really just like, how do we get our students, who are involved in the school but are ready to leave, how do we get them to be more involved with, what we're doing in the school after they leave? And I think that, it's interesting that Megillat Ruth lends itself to a lot of those themes. And I was talking to my seniors currently. I was teaching a class to them. This is the last week of senior classes.
Aww.
And it's very sad. I'm going to miss them. Yeah. But we were talking about ways that, they want to leave a mark on Ramaz and on the world. And I think that, this is a really great example of just what you're able to do virtually. But it can extend, right? We can do this even when we're allowed back in buildings together.
Yeah, that's a question that I keep getting asked. For those of you who are joining us just for this session or who have been with us since 3 o'clock, the voice in the background is me. My name is Leah. I am the director of alumni and part of the team that is putting today's sessions together. I've been getting asked this question since mid-March, since we started doing all of our online programming. How long are you guys going to continue doing these programs? How long are you going to be doing online classes? And my answer has been until it's safe to get together again in person. But my personal answer is forever. we've always been trying to find a way to bring all of our programming to everyone. Not everyone lives in New York. Not everyone lives on the East Side. I don't live on the East Side. I actually live on the West Side, and so if there's a way for us to bring our programming to people who live outside of New York, outside of the tri-state area, we have a huge contingency of alumni who live on the West Coast, who live in Israel, who live in Florida, who live outside of the United States. We want to bring our programming, we want to simulcast it, all over the place. Creating the YouTube channel that we have, the Ramaz Virtual Campus, was a brainchild of myself and Kenny Rockland, who I think is still on here somewhere listening in, because we wanted to provide a virtual education for our alumni in the Ramaz community, just like we were for our students, just like Miss Benus and Miss Enders and all of our other faculty members who have been doing for the last 10 weeks, even though it feels like much longer and much shorter at the same time. We want to leave our mark. We want to be remembered. My mom keeps asking me, when we get out of this and people ask you what you've done, what will you have to show for it? And this is what we'll have to show for it. These videos, these classes, these sessions. Some people will have the sweaters and blankets and the perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe. I know Miss Benus is working on that. And the perfect loaf of sourdough and the perfect, chicken soup recipe. And, some people will have all of those things. Some people will learn how to speak French or Spanish or whatever it is. And others will have learned how to make a computer out of bits and bobs that they found around their house. So, leaving a mark and leaving a legacy, I know is something that our seniors, both our 8th graders and our graduating students, both our 8th graders and our senior class is thinking about. And it's something that Ruth was thinking about during her time, and is something that she did. I remember, that's my 12 years of yeshiva education, there's 5 things that everybody remembers. One of them is that King David comes from Ruth, right? That's one of the things that everyone remembers, right? David HaMelech comes from Ruth. That's one of the things. So to make a long story short, hi.
Hi.
Are you guys saying hi to me?
Yes.
Oh, hello.
I'm in class of 64.
Hello.
Together.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for all the programs.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I know you guys have been in and out of all of them.
And Tamar, thank you. Your presentation was spectacular.
Sorry, I can't really hear you, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm going
yeah.
to lean in because I'm far away and hope I get closer. I may have missed the first minute or two of your presentation. They're focused on how we're Gemilut Chasadim. In some way, we can connect this quality, which may become quality in the family, which is important for David's leadership, because he was the Eved.
Wait, I'm sorry. You keep cutting out. I'm sorry.
When you're in Muncie, they don't like
Oh, are you holding a microphone?
No.
Oh, but I can hear you if it's close to your mouth.
Okay, I'm going to climb aboard this computer.
Good.
Now,
Perfect.
better?
Yes.
You spoke of Gemilut Chesed as a basic quality that we see evolving roots. What might this have been as a special tip based on these? How would this have reflected on leadership? Was this chosen because this was an important quality for a leader to be possessed?
I think this was the question. Was this specifically chosen because this is a quality that we want to see in a leader, in kingship, in kind of that was developing? And
Thank you. I love being translated into you.
Great.
we're all a team.
Exactly. That's actually a really interesting idea. It's very possible. I'm not sure if anybody comments on this. I'm happy to look into it and really get back to you. The one thing I would say, though, is that a lot of the leaders that come after, right, the kings that we have and the leaders that we have, often don't have the midah of Gemilut Chesed, especially David, which is interesting. That I think he struggles a lot with being selfless in situations, and that's part of what maybe leads to his own downfall. And it's possible that maybe this is kind of placed as an ideal for not just leaders but anybody to kind of reach. But it's a really interesting point that the values that are kind of sprinkled throughout Tanakh, maybe those are the ones that people really should pull from and use as a mirror.
I think if I could just add, what struck me also is that this quality of root, it doesn't originate in Judaism, and I think Miss Tamar really alluded to that, right? Like Ruth is a convert. She's a Moabiyah, and yet she's still kind of placed as that ideal role model, and it's such a paradigm for us to be able to learn from wisdom and ideals and values that come from all over the place, and those are still things that we are supposed to emulate and admire.
Maybe even we can broaden the question or the answer, because while Ruth brings us the quality of Gemilut Chesed, we have Boaz,
right?
The same quality, and maybe every once in a while we have to stop and remember that it's a quality not isolated, just one. So we mustn't be surprised when other people come up with our best standards.
For sure.
Look for it in ourselves as well.
No, I think that that just allows us to appreciate really Megillat root and the Chag of Shavuot in a very, very personal way. That it's not just who we are at this moment. It's everyone we've ever interacted with. It doesn't matter your background, creed, whatever it is. And I think that you make a very good point there. That expanding that idea is really something that doesn't often happen in a lot of books of Tanakh, and I think we can learn from that. So thank you.